not properly doing the housework or taking care of the kids. Right, let's get divorced. Oh, and don't forget the property division. Actually, I was recently involved in a traffic accident. It was 2 weeks after the accident when Jacob finally came to the hospital. Instead of showing concern, he threw unexpected words at me. At first, I was slightly happy that Jacob finally came to visit, but seeing his attitude, my disappointment grew, and a deep sigh came up. To tell the truth, I've been getting tired of this relationship recently and was thinking about divorce. So when Jacob suddenly brought it up today, I was surprised, but in a way I was grateful that the conversation proceeded smoothly without a long dispute. Let's do that. Jacob looked surprised, not expecting me to agree. So quickly, sorry, but I know exactly what you're scheming. I felt a little amusement inside and struggled to hold back my laughter. Maya, I'm 35 years old and currently devoted to housework and childcare. I spend my days with my husband, Jacob, and our adorable 7-year-old daughter, Emma. I met Jacob at a mixer when I had just started working. We got married when I was 28. We bonded over generational stories, and Jacob's passionate approach moved me at the mixer. Jacob's handsome appearance stood out, and he was the center of attention among the women, so his serious approach was very welcome and a bit of a bragging point. While we dated, he seemed to always prioritize me in his actions. For example, he'd surprise me at a lovely restaurant on my birthday, or plan trips to wonderful places on our anniversary. When he gave heartwarming letters on important occasions, I genuinely felt lucky to have someone like Jacob. So when he proposed, I immediately said yes. Being with Jacob, who loves surprises, I expected to always feel the excitement of a new romance. But an unforeseen challenge awaited. Actually, Jacob changed dramatically after marriage. Hey, Maya, why isn't dinner ready? I've been working all day, and I'm the breadwinner of this family. Serve the meal quickly, making me wait like this. You're failing as the support role for the breadwinner. After marriage, Jacob started emphasizing his role as the breadwinner and began to view me as the support role for the breadwinner. At first, I took it as a joke from him. During our dating period, we often joked and laughed together. I imagined a wonderful married life with nicknames for each other and forever being close. After marriage, Jacob's attitude made me feel like a mere helper. Initially, I brushed off comments like "stop joking like that," but over time, I realized he seriously saw me only as a support role, which was confusing. After marriage, I resigned from my job and we relied on Jacob's income. I started fearing a confrontation with Jacob, worried he'd make financial threats. Honestly, his salary wasn't that great. When I was working, our financial situation was more stable. Jacob, after high school, went through various jobs. His curious and impulsive nature remained, often changing jobs every 1 or 2 years. This unstable career made Jacob feel insecure about his own career, and sometimes he took out his frustrations on me. I'm sorry for being late. I had something to do. You're late again. I told you to be quick. What? Jacob said that in a firm tone, immediately took out a beer from the fridge and relaxed on the living room sofa. I've seen this many times. So I sighed softly and headed to the kitchen to start preparing dinner. Such incidents have become everyday occurrences in our home, but I still tried to live peacefully day by day. A year after our marriage, we were blessed with a baby girl named Emma, but life after her birth was like an ongoing battle. Jacob's participation in child rearing was disappointing. He hardly helped at all, yet when Emma wanted toys or candies, he would generously buy them for her. As a result, he became the indulgent one, while I was the stricter parent. This made Emma feel closer to Jacob, her father. Hey Emma, what do you think of Daddy? Yeah, Daddy is cool and I love you. Told you all. I'm a pretty amazing dad, right? Jacob looked at me smugly, clearly pleased with Emma's adorable answer. It's heartwarming to see a child adore their father so much. I smiled a little, but I also let out a soft sigh. But in reality, while Jacob spoils Emma, he's never once attended any of her school events. There's a parent-child relay race at the upcoming sports day. Why don't you join? Why do I need to do that? I'm tired from working all day. You have the time. How you do it? But isn't it a great opportunity to bond? It's on Sunday, so you won't have to worry about work. We already have a strong bond. You should be more careful. Emma might not like you if you're too strict. You know, laughs. Jacob said that with a smile, but with a hint of sarcasm, and then left for work. I wondered, how can someone who doesn't even show up for his daughter's sports day call himself a great dad? I deeply hope that Jacob's selfishness and harsh attitude wouldn't influence our daughter. Demo, I'm tasked, but Jacob left everything regarding the house and Emma to me, spending his days without lifting a finger. Emma will be in elementary school soon, but Jacob's approach to work hasn't changed. Recently, he left his factory job and seems to have entered the food service industry. My new job is in the food industry, so it looks like I'll have to work weekends. So we'll have even less time to spend as a family on weekends. Looks like it. It's work. Can't help it. Of course. I understand. But when Jacob is home, he often gives orders about housework, which is honestly stressful. Although I always do my best with the chores, having Jacob say things like, "Why isn't this place cleaned up?" Or "Is your dish completed, Christamal?" Or "Is dinner ready yet?" was stressful. However, I am concerned that Emma might feel lonely if Jacob is away, even on weekends. For a child, spending a relaxed holiday with the whole family is precious. By the way, let Emma know about my work situation. The course. I tell her, the fact that Jacob's income supports our family is undeniable. I'm not in a position to blame him. But those feelings. I went to Emma's room. I have some disappointing news. I looked at her, wondering if she'd be upset, but Emma's reaction was nothing like I expected. What is it? From now on, Daddy won't be home on his days off. Emma seemed to ponder for a moment, but then smiled. Okay, that's fine. Really? Mom was a bit worried. Yay, but recently, Daddy has been smelling a bit odd. Huh, what kind of smell? Emma didn't reply, but instead hurried out of her room. I was left pondering her words. What did she mean by a strange smell? Lost in the daily grit parenting and housework, I hadn't noticed minor changes. The time spent with Jacob had decreased, and I often felt distant from him as a couple. So, I had been avoiding him. Maybe it's the smell of materials they use in the factory. Just come to think of it, I remembered he had a distinct scent when he returned home recently. Perhaps it was from chemicals or materials at the factory. That would explain Emma's comment about the strange smell. Even though he switched from the factory to the food industry, that strange smell remained. I chuckled at Emma's innocent remark. Children's straightforwardness can surprise us, but it's also what makes them so endearing. I became more curious about Jacob's behavior on his days off. On weekends, he'd leave early in the morning, even on weekdays. He was always away. What was he doing on his days off? One morning, without any explanation, he'd leave the house. I wasn't sure if it was for work or leisure. Driven by curiosity, I decided to ask him one day, "Hey, you've been going out a lot even on your days off recently. So where do you go?" Upon hearing my question, Jacob looked surprised. He blinked a few times, seemingly pondering how to reply. I want to be relied upon in my new workplace, so I'm working even on my days off. That's important, but please take care of your health. Stop nagging about my work. It was hard for me to understand how Jacob could be so irritable about his job, especially when he often critiqued how I handled housework and childcare. Given his character, I found it hard to believe he'd willingly work on his days off. Having spent so long with him, I knew Jacob's work habits and attitudes, so his current behavior felt odd. Had he truly grown so passionate about his job, he'd have stuck to his previous job. But moreover, Emma's comment about the strange smell was bothering me. Was there something more behind it, or was it just a child's imagination? I decided to delve a little deeper. Every time Jacob returned home, a distinct sweet and strong scent would tickle my nose. It couldn't be from the factory. Why hadn't I noticed this obvious change earlier? I chastised myself, determined not to let this slide. I decided to be more observant of Jacob's actions. Whenever Jacob said he was leaving for work, he'd get up unusually early and take extra care with his appearance. On such days, his face always had a look of anticipation. Driven by curiosity, I searched every nook and cranny of Jacob's room. Then, I noticed a candy tin in his closet. Thick stacks today. I found numerous envelopes. What on earth? I couldn't help but voice my shock aloud. The sender's name on the letters was Meg. The letters had clearly been delivered by mail. The postmarks varied in date. The oldest was from 2 months ago, while the most recent was just yesterday. As I read further, the content made me think of youthful love letters. Jacob, we had our differences before, but now I truly love you. For 6 sections, I missed the days when we spent time together so happily. There were even straightforward expressions of love, like Jacob, thank you for always making time enjoyable. I love you. And Faust. I thought maybe Jacob's past girlfriends wanted to reminisce about some memories and sent a letter just to convey her feelings. However, a certain line in the letter caught my attention. "It's been great seeing you again recently. It's looking forward to our next date." Such joy-filled words were written there. The date of the letter was just last week. It seems Jacob is currently seeing this woman named Meg. This confirms he's cheating. I saved the content of the letter as a photo on my phone. I considered taking the actual letter, but thought Jacob might notice if I did. Oh, souries. Yet, I felt this letter alone wasn't enough proof. After much thought, I decided hiring a private investigator was the best move. To ascertain Jacob's actions. I had him followed. 3 weeks later, I received a report from the agency. I hadn't expected the results to come back so quickly and was somewhat surprised. The photo the investigator gave me contained pictures of Jacob and Meg walking hand in hand and shots of them passionately kissing on a park bench at night. There was also an audio recording capturing them saying, "I love you." Having braced myself somewhat, the shock wasn't too great. "Entry in my heart," I murmured. I knew it as I accepted the evidence. Holding the divorce papers, I left the city hall. Now that I was sure of Jacob's affair with another woman, I saw no point in continuing our relationship. I decided that if anything major arose between Jacob and me, I would show him the divorce papers and force a decision. When I got home, I sat on the sofa and let out a sigh. Even though I handled things coolly, a storm raged inside my heart. Recalling my days with Jacob, I wallowed in self-loathing, wondering why I married him in the first place. I was about to start preparing dinner when my cell phone rang. "Hello, it's Maya and Maya. Can you talk now?" "Yay, what happened?" I was taken aback by my father's sudden call. It was quite rare for him to call me directly. "To be honest, your mother and I had a deep discussion about assets last night. But it were thinking it might be time to pass it on to you." "What?" "Oh, why this all of a sudden?" "My father runs a business, supplying hand-picked goods from around the world to domestic clients. I'm the daughter of the company's CEO. However, I hadn't told Jacob about this. Considering Jacob's history of job hopping, I felt that talking about my family's business might hurt him. But I wondered what this sudden call from my father meant. "We've grown old and are thinking of retiring soon. We did consider making you the next CEO, but didn't want to burden our only daughter. So we've decided to close down the business." "I see." I felt guilty for not choosing the path of succeeding the company. But my parents understood my feelings and planned my life's path accordingly. Their kindness warmed my heart. That's why we decided to pass on the assets we've accumulated to you. Abe, to $2 million, but $100,000 is enough for your mother and me. So we plan to inherit the remaining $19 million to you. Dima, these to $19 million? Really? I was shocked. I never imagined I would possess such a large sum. It's an amount that would be hard for me to earn in my lifetime. Yes, of course, there will be inheritance tax deductions. But even after that, a substantial amount should remain. With this money, you'll never have to worry about finances. Thank you. Dad and Mom, too. Truly, thank you. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I ended the call. Knowing that I'd soon have access to such a large sum, I realized I wouldn't have to worry, even if I decided to end things with Jacob. Considering Jacob's work, it would be challenging for him to acquire such an amount. Overwhelmed with emotion and relief, I zoned out for a while. When I glanced at the clock, it was already pointing to 5 in the evening. I was surprised at how quickly time had passed. I hurriedly thought of preparing dinner and headed to the kitchen, only to realize I had run out of ingredients for dinner. I decided to head to the nearby supermarket to buy ingredients. Recalling my father's words lightened my heart. Yet at the same time, I was anxious, fearing that Jacob might come home if I got back too late. With that in mind, I left the house in haste. As I was about to cross the street when the traffic light turned green, suddenly, car watch out, a scream-like shout pierced my ears. In that split second, I felt as if gravity reversed, lifting me into the air. I was slammed onto the asphalt, a severe shock echoing in my head. Failed to understand why this was happening. Darkness enveloped me, and I started to lose consciousness. When I came to an unfamiliar ceiling stretched above me, slowly my surroundings came into focus. I realized I was lying in a hospital bed. It's my parents, wearing worried expressions, and a tearful Emma stood in front of me. "Oh, Mia, I'm so glad you're awake." Mommy, feeling Emma's teary eyes on me. I gently stroked her head. "You were hit hard by a car, and both your legs are broken. It will take about 3 months for a full recovery." Thinking of the long days ahead, my heart wavered with anxiety. From then on, my life revolved around a wheelchair. The nurses took excellent care of me, but the inability to walk freely was undeniably frustrating. Many friends and acquaintances came to visit and encouraged me during my hospital stay. My parents seemed to have taken care of Emma. As Jacob was often away due to his busy work schedule, their presence was a significant comfort. He might be having a great time with that woman. It's values. Then 2 weeks later, an unexpected visitor appeared. It was Jacob. "Hey, how's it going?" Even though he clearly knew why I was in the hospital, he asked casually. I replied weakly, "I'm okay. Man, it was tough without you at home, you know." His words seemed to undervalue all the housework I had done. I sighed lightly, hoping for a bit of concern. "It can't be helped. It was an accident," heaping to my retort. Jacob responded dismissively, "What a mess. You're not doing the household chores and childcare, right, are you? Let's get a divorce. Oh, and don't forget the property division." While I was in the hospital, Jacob made an unbelievable declaration. I was briefly relieved thinking he had come out of concern, but his true colors hadn't changed. Drawing a deep breath, I sighed again. The truth be told, I was already tired of this relationship and had considered divorce. So when Jacob suddenly brought up the topic, I was surprised but also somewhat grateful that the conversation went smoothly. "Let's do it." Jacob, not expecting my immediate agreement, looked at me with wide eyes. "I've seen right through your schemes." I had to restrain myself from laughing. "I've already filled out the divorce papers." From a bag my mother had brought, I took out the divorce papers and handed them to Jacob. "Impressive, you came prepared." "All right, I'll submit these to the city hall." Jacob quickly filled in the necessary information on the spot. "As with this, we can finally be free from each other. It's a relief. I'm heading home." I wanted to reply, "Same here," but I silently watched his back as he left. After this, he would probably start a new life with Meg. I don't know what kind of person Meg is, but when I think about her future living with a nitpicky man like Jacob, I can't help but feel sorry for her. I felt sorry for Emma, but my decision to divorce remained unchanged. I resolved to support and nurture Emma even more than before. Over the next month, I endured peaceful and stable days. Without Jacob's constant complaints, I was able to enjoy my own time, and it felt like heaven. I've already been discharged from the hospital and continue to attend a rehabilitation facility. I've decided to stay at my parents' home until my legs fully recover. Naturally, upon hearing about my divorce, my parents felt resentment towards Jacob. Wishing to forget about Jacob as a thing of the past, my family refrained from mentioning him. Emma, too, went to school every day without showing any particular signs of missing her father. I guess Emma noticed it early on. Perhaps Emma had long realized Jacob's selfish nature and might not have even recognized him as a father on his days off. Either way, I genuinely feel that the decision to part with him was the right one. That said, one day at noon, my cell phone rang. Seeing the name Jacob on the display, I initially decided to ignore the call, but he kept calling persistently and annoyed. I finally answered. "Why aren't you picking up?" "Mia, when are you coming back?" Taken aback, I reflexively responded, "What?" Given the aggressive tone, his words made no sense. "What do you mean by coming back? Didn't you marry Meg?" Upon hearing the name, he exclaimed, "How do you know about Meg? Did you think I knew nothing? I'm fully aware of your affair. That's why I'm claiming property division. What are you talking about? I can't imagine paying both property division and child support. It's ridiculous that you, who barely did household chores, are claiming property division. You should be the one to pay for neglecting housework." I was astonished at Jacob's absurd claim. Indeed, I had initiated claims for both property division and child support from him, but he hadn't paid a dime. I knew Jacob was financially strapped, but refusing to pay and then demanding something from me was beyond comprehension. "Has got evidence of your affair. I've also consulted with a lawyer thoroughly, and my claims are based on that. You know that, right, Maya, Art?" It seemed he had already seen the evidence gathered by the detective agency. Despite this, his calling me directly was shocking. I decided to respond calmly despite my disbelief. "Honestly, I've been feeling doubts about our relationship even before your affair. You never helped with housework or childcare, always complaining. I'm not your convenient maid, but I felt relieved when you got remarried. Someone else could take care of you. Well, Meg, she's terrible at housework. I didn't know when I married her. She confidently said, 'Leave it to me.' But her cooking's terrible, and she doesn't clean. Being with you is better. So will you marry me again? You must be worried about money, right? Emma must have liked me as her father. Jacob's comment about was better made my anger surge. What are you talking about? The affair, the divorce, and the remarriage were all your choices. If you have regrets, that's on you. And Emma doesn't think much of you. And as for the money, I planned everything thoroughly. You're lying. How can you, who was a housewife, have money? You can't live without my support, can you? I hadn't initially intended to tell Jacob about the substantial inheritance from my parents, but I felt there was no point hiding it now. Actually, my parents ran a substantial business, and recently, they transferred a significant amount of assets to me. $19 million. It might be a surprising figure. So even without working, I can live comfortably, surprised. I could imagine Jacob's shocked expression upon hearing the figure of $19 million. Wait, is that true? You're that rich? It's true. If you don't believe me, you can confirm it with my parents. There was a moment of silence, followed by a voice mixed with astonishment and confusion. Is that really true? Why didn't you tell me something so important? Because our relationship was becoming strained, and the discussions about the assets weren't solidified yet. I didn't find the right moment to say it. Thick, damn it, disappointment was evident in Jacob's voice. He probably never dreamed I'd have such a vast sum of money. I could clearly sense his regret, but I wanted to completely sever ties with him. Have you finally understood? So be sure to pay the property division on time, and maybe reflect on your actions a bit. Let's make this the last time. Don't contact me anymore. Goodbye. Taking a deep breath, I set down my phone. Thick successary. Immediately, I added Jacob's number to the block list. This should prevent any more annoying calls from him. Who was that call from? Emma, perhaps curious, hurried over. Just an acquaintance, but that doesn't matter. Hey, how about we go to the amusement park this weekend? Thing. I can't wait. Seeing Emma's face light up, I silently sighed in relief. Her smile was the most precious thing to me. A while later, I heard from a friend that Jacob had divorced Meg. Constant quarrels arose due to Meg not doing house chores. And ultimately, Meg took the step to end things. It might be challenging for Jacob, with multiple divorces in such a short time. He'd consider marriage again, for the sake of preventing further pain for anyone else. I hope he remains single for a while. After divorcing Meg, it seems he also quit his job at the restaurant. He'll likely find a new job somewhere, but it may take time for him to bounce back. His life seemed to have taken a rapid downturn, and while he felt a tad sympathetic, it was a consequence of his own choices. To avoid contact with Jacob, I blocked his phone number and made a point to avoid places filled with our shared memories. With our shared memories as days past, Jacob's presence in my life faded away like mist. Eventually, I received the property division from Jacob. He probably incurred significant debt. I'm unsure how he'll overcome his daily challenges, but deep down, I hope this catalyzes his reflection. I'm enjoying a peaceful life at my parents' home. My parents, warmly welcomed, my prolonged stay, my fractures are healing. And I've regained my energy starting a part-time job at a cute local flower shop. While I don't need to work financially, interacting with people outside felt more in tune with my nature. I work for most of the week and spend enjoyable moments with Emma and my parents during weekends. This tranquil everyday life holds immense value for me, making me appreciate life. I want to continue cherishing these warm moments with my loving family. Every time I see Emma smile, I genuinely feel the happiness of the present.